Hey guys, Mike here from Lunch Money Comics. Today I'm at Jeffrey's Antique Co-op Mall. I haven't been here in a long time, but the last time I was here there were tons of comic books. So let's go inside and see if we can find some. Okay guys, there were a lot of comic books in there. Nothing I absolutely had to have. Still, I found a couple of really interesting ones I want to show you guys. But there's one more place I want to check out nearby, so let's keep hunting. All right, here we are at location number 2. That's Entertainment North. Let's check it out. Well, that was definitely a worthwhile stop, guys. I've been to the store before, but never noticed how many awesome Golden Age books they have. And I got an incredible book at an awesome negotiated price. So let's go home and I'll show you everything that I got today. So there you go, guys. That was my afternoon of hunting for comic books in sort of north central Massachusetts. I was in the area, had some time to kill, and there's always time to hunt for some comic books. I ended up going to 2 different locations that you saw in the footage. The first one was sort of your classic indoor flea market that I love going to. There were plenty of comic books, just nothing I really needed to have. I still got a couple that I want to show you guys. But that second location was a comic book store, and man, did I get one of the best deals ever on a Golden Age comic I'm pretty ecstatic about. So before I show you these comic books, guys, and I'm excited to show them to you, if you like this sort of stuff and you want to support the channel, head on down, like, comment, and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram under Lunch Money Comics IG. Always feel free to hit me up, guys. I love talking with every single one of you. So that first location you saw was called Jeffrey's Antique Co-op in Lunenburg, Massachusetts. And like I said, it's an antique flea market, consignment shop, antique mall. We call them lots of different things, but they're all pretty much the same. People rent out booths and they can put whatever they want in them to sell. Now, I've been to this place exactly one other time, almost exactly a year ago. Same thing, I was in the area. I did a quick Google search of antique stores nearby. This showed up and I dropped in hoping they might have some comic books. And boy, did they. I found 2 vendors that had almost nothing but comic books. It was pretty incredible. I did pretty good for myself, got some great comic books, and I did a video on it. However, right after that video dropped, several people contacted me saying that they went to this place and it was borderline cleaned out. Tons of people went in there, bought up a ton of comics, and then I found out a few weeks after that, the biggest comic vendor in there had picked up everything and moved to another location. So the reason why I hadn't been back in a year was because I didn't think there were any comic books left. But I figured a year later, enough time has passed, I was in the area, I should drop in to see if there were any more comic books. And you guys saw, yeah, there were plenty of comic books there. Just not a lot that I was really into. No Silver or Bronze Age, almost exclusively modern stuff, which I don't collect. Not only that, like a lot of the comics I did see that I was interested in, you know, they were priced, well, pretty much right at retail or right as if they were like a near mint copy, even if the condition wasn't quite that good. It really needed like kind of like a holiday sale to make it worth picking these up. But hey, you know, at retail prices, if it's something you want badly enough, you pick it up. And that's why I ended up with 3 comic books to show you. But before I show them to you, I told you guys I show off more things I kind of find in my hunting and picking that aren't comic books. So let's start with this. The first thing I decided to buy at the store was a game. So this is a game called Coup. It's a small game, basically a card game of bluffing, deduction, and secret identities. It's relatively cheap, about $10 or $15. And I like this game quite a bit. Why did I get another copy? Well, quite simply, it's still sealed in the plastic and it was $4. I love getting extra games like this, guys, especially if they're ones I love. They're great stocking stuffers. They're great last minute, like, birthday gifts if you forget. And also, you know, a small game like this is perfect because it fits on your shelf and you can also travel with it. So I love this game. Let me know down in the comments, guys, if any of you have played Coup. I think it's a pretty popular game nowadays, but I'd love to hear from you. It's one of my personal favorites. Thought I'd show that off first. Okay, so all three of these comic books I got on basically a display right when you walked in. I looked at it when I first walked in, said, there's nothing there that I want. I did my rounds, looked at everything else, and then when I came back to it on the way out, I found these three books, and they changed my mind. But this first one is actually a variant comic. It's relatively new, but it's not for me. And it's this. So this is Secret Wars number 9. Bear with me here. This is the cover B Midtown Comics exclusive J. Scott Campbell Jean Grey cover. Whew, that was a mouthful. And you see here, this cover is covered with all the different iterations and costumes of Jean Grey. We have the original Marvel Girl outfit. We have her X-Factor outfit. We have the 1990s Jean Grey right there. We even have her as the Black Queen when she was part of the Hellfire Club during Dark Phoenix Saga. We even have her clone alter ego of Madeline Pryor. And we, of course, have the Dark Phoenix up there. And, of course, I had to put my t-shirt on. And I got this for my little sister, whose favorite character is, by far, Jean Grey. Now, full disclosure, guys, I don't love J. Scott Campbell. I know a lot of people love him, and they love collecting him. They like the way he draws girls. They always come off as very cartoony to me. Obviously, he's a very talented guy. Don't get me wrong. It's just not quite my style. But I figured my sister would absolutely love this. It was listed at $10, which is probably exactly what it's worth. But it's okay. It's a gift, so I was happy to pick this up. Thought it was pretty cool. Let me know down in the comments if you're a J. Scott Campbell fan. This next book is also a modern variant, but this one's for me. But let me explain why I wanted it. It's this. This is Marvel Comics 1000. This is from 2019, and what this is a Marvel 80th anniversary issue. It's a fat, square-bound book made up of multiple stories spanning multiple decades from the Golden Age all the way to modern times, with tons of Marvel characters in here, lots of little stories, and probably the coolest part about it is that it was worked on by hundreds of comic creators, you know, artists, inkers, colorers, letterers, everybody worked on this book, and I thought it was pretty cool in its own right, but of course the reason I really wanted it is this cover. This is the special Jen Bartel Storm variant. It's a 1 in 50 variant. I don't care about the scarcity. I just like the cover, guys. Storm is my favorite female superhero by far. One of my favorite X-Men. I have a huge crush on her. I absolutely love her. And look at this beautiful cover. This one is absolutely a near mint copy. And I can't remember what it was priced at. We'll say $10. Either way, guys, I just wanted it. I had to have it, so I very rarely pick up modern variant covers, but this is a beautiful one. I was happy to add it to the collection. The last one I think is the most interesting though, guys. I have a general rule. If you see something you've never seen before, it's probably a good idea to pick it up if the price is right. And that's why I got this. So this is Marvel Live number 0. And this was a 1993 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive they handed out at the convention. Pretty crazy. We see Mr. Stan Lee right here. And guys, honestly, a lot of times if you find these special convention exclusives, they're often like signed. So I bought this sight unseen hoping there'd be a signature or two inside, hoping for Stan Lee. Wasn't to be. There's a fake Stan Lee signature on the inside. But it's a pretty cool snapshot in time anyways, guys. You see they're promoting the Midnight Suns, which, you know, were a big 90s team. You know, they're promoting the Marvel series by Alex Ross. So that's pretty cool. It reminds me of being a kid back then. But on the inside, the middle, is a list of all the artists that were at the con. And you see a couple of them did sign it. We have Fabian Nicieza right here. And there's even Dan Slott. No picture for him, but he signed right there. So that's pretty cool to find 2 signatures in this book, guys. It was also $10. Like I said, if you've never seen it before, it's worth picking up. And if you do see these Comic-Con exclusives, you never know. There might actually be a signature or 2 inside. So not being completely satisfied with those 3 comic books, I knew there was a comic book store right down the street I wanted to check in on, and it's called That's Entertainment in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Now, if you've heard me mention That's Entertainment before, that's because I go to their Worcester location all the time. That's sort of like their big, gigantic flagship store. This is their smaller store in the small city of Fitchburg, Massachusetts. And I've been there before, and yes, they have lots of new release comic books and some back issues, but they're mostly like a gaming store. They have lots of like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic cards and vintage video games. And the reason I was primarily stopping in was actually for Magic cards. See, my son is really into Magic, and he was supposed to be with me this day hunting, but right before I left, he got sick and was not feeling so good. So there was a specific card he wanted for a deck he's building. I stopped in to see if they had it, and they did. So I picked it up for him. For you Magic fans out there, if you're curious, it was a Lotus Petals, by the way. But yeah, while I was in there, of course, I had to look at the comic books. And again, although I've been there before, I'd never noticed all the books they had behind the counter. It seems like they had a lot more this time. A couple books I looked at, they had 2 copies of Werewolf by Night 32, first appearance of Moon Knight. One was graded at 6.5, the other a 0.5. Pretty cool books, but I wasn't really in the market for those at the time. But what really drew my eye was their selection of Golden Age books, which I'd never seen there before. And there was one that immediately appealed to me. So I'm going to stand on my soapbox a little bit, guys, and wax poetic on my love of certain things, not necessarily comic book related. But while I do that, I'm going to hold this book up so you have something to look at. And the book that I got was this. This is Captain Marvel 66 from 1946, Fawcett Publications, of course, featuring the Billy Batson Captain Marvel, art by C.C. Beck, story by Otto Binder. There's actually multiple stories in here. And the reason I got this was because it says Captain Marvel battles the dread atomic war. This is an atomic war cover. There were lots of these that were put out in the 1950s, and for obvious reasons, it was definitely on the forefront of everyone's mind. But what I often talk about, guys, is my love of comics, but I don't tell you about my other loves. I love science and history, especially World War II, and where all those things converge is on the Manhattan Project. I am fascinated with the Manhattan Project, where the United States took their very sizable resources to take the greatest minds in the world to try to break open the atom. Something that people thought was impossible even a few years before that. Anyone who saw Oppenheimer knows exactly what I'm talking about. Fantastic movie. I loved it, but basically got them all together to perform this miracle, and they did. And what did we do with this incredible breakthrough in science? We promptly made a weapon to drop on people. And what fascinates me about this whole thing is not just the scientific endeavors that went into it, not just the war itself, but the impact that's had on the psyche of humanity ever since. I mean, think about it, guys. As bad as World War II was, I don't think anyone before World War II really envisioned the entire world being annihilated. We didn't think we could actually destroy ourselves utterly and completely, but we certainly did after that moment. And what I think is so fascinating about it is that that's permeated our psyche ever since. One of my favorite YouTubers in the world is Joe Scott. He's a gigantic YouTuber, does lots of videos on the things I like science and history. And very recently I watched a video where he was trying to project out what the year 2100 would look like, an almost impossible task. But one of the cool ways he decided to go about doing it was to look at the past and see what people a long time ago would think what now would look like. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people weren't even close, and other people like Jules Verne, surprisingly close. But one of the things he discovered is that no matter what time you go to, people tend to take their problems of that time and extrapolate it to the future. So if you picture whatever problem is right now, you'll assume it's either going to be worse in the future or fixed in the future. So one of the most fascinating clips he showed was of school children in Britain in the 60s. And they asked them what the year 2000 would look like. And you would think, hey, they're kids, they're plucky, they're fun, they'll say flying cars or space travel. Nope. Every single kid, in a very despondent and depressed way, all said, the year 2000, we'll all be dead. The world will be a barren wasteland because we will have destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. For real, guys, that was the actual clip. It was shocking. The Soviet Union had gotten the bomb, the Cold War was on, the arms race was on, and everyone thought it was an inevitability. And whenever we have something that scary, it tends to get reflected in our art. Let's look, for instance, at Godzilla. Godzilla came out in the early 1950s in Japan, and what is it about? It's about a gigantic nuclear monster that destroys Japan. The allegory is not lost on anyone, guys. Some people even think it's a metaphor for the United States. They wake the sleeping monster with atomic power that destroys the country. So you can see how that gets reflected, guys, in the 50s and then even in the 60s and 70s, all the spy thrillers we had during the Cold War that are dealing with, you know, nuclear armaments or the misuse of them. And these spy thrillers, their missions were literally with the world at stake. And even the idea of the human race destroying ourselves was always shown in movies like Planet of the Apes or the Terminator movies. So it shouldn't be any surprise, guys, that all of this stuff permeates not only our film, but our stories as well, even comic books. So let's really talk about what this is. This is a book from, again, 1946, a year after the atomic bomb is created and used. Talk about a window and a snapshot in time of what people were thinking about at the time. Because remember, nominally, this is a kid's book. This is a children's comic book, and they're talking about a nuclear winter. Of course, you know, when you actually open the comic book, it's like a simulation, like a TV show, but it doesn't matter, guys. It's definitely not lost on me that this is what people were thinking about. And for all of those reasons, I had to have this book. Absolutely had to have it. So let's actually talk about this comic book now that I've rambled on for a while. It looks great, doesn't it? It's a beautiful presenting cover, and staying on the positives, both staples are in here and they are attached to everything that's actually in the book. Because here come all the problems. It's very brittle. You can actually tell by how dark the cover is. The back cover is actually missing a third of it. So thank goodness the front looks great, because the back, not so much. I think you guys saw in the footage, all of the leading edges of the pages were missing little chunks where people, you know, had put a fold in it, and because it's so brittle, those folds turned to creases and they just broke off. But the most sort of damning of all is, you know, when I took this book out of the Mylar, it felt a little light to me. And what I mean by that is it seemed thin. It's funny, guys, not even knowing what the page count of comic books are sometimes, you can tell just looking at the spine that it's light or it's missing some pages. So I decided to count the pages and I looked up how many there should be. And sure enough, it's missing 2 folios, or in other words, 8 pages. So bummer, it's not complete. So the original price on this was $50, but I figure if it's, you know, that bad of shape and it's missing a part of it, especially, I could probably get it for less, maybe 30, maybe 20 bucks. So when I was talking to the guy who was working there about all its issues and he agreed with me, I said, well, you know, what's the best you could do? And he goes, oh, in that shape? $5. Guys, there's not much I wouldn't buy for $5, let alone an amazing Atomic Age comic book that I had to have. I quickly agreed to it. And yeah, guys, I don't care about the condition. This is a fantastic presenting book, and I absolutely love it. So there you go, guys. Head on down to the comments and let me know which one of my pickups you like the best. I assume it's this one, but hey, you might be a modern variant collector or like these kind of weird Comic-Con exclusives, so you never know. Also, let me know what you think of the prices that I paid, especially on this one. I know $5 seems like a steal, but for a lot of people, condition is a deal breaker, and missing pages, an incomplete book, is a disqualifier. So let me know down in the comments if you would not have paid $5 for this book. And hey, while you're down there commenting on comic books, if you feel like chiming in on the conversation on your opinions on the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project, and all of that, feel free to do so, but obviously that's a conversation that can go dark really, really quick, so try to keep it as light as possible. That's it, guys. Keep hunting for comic books in strange and unusual places. You never know which amazing Golden Age deals you can come up with. Thank you guys so much for watching and also indulging me sort of rambling on all the things I love, not just comic books. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.